it's Loree with the blog wagonwheelhomestead.com. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to share with you a really special video I've been working on for a while and one that I think you're really going to enjoy. I'm going to show you what I feed my family. I have 5 children, 1 on the way, so we're due have another baby here in November, and a husband, of course. And so what do I feed this family of mine for breakfast? And so I'm going to show you like my favorite sourdough granola, some cinnamon twists, a couple pumpkin recipes, because I know it's not quite fall yet, but it's getting there. And I just want these recipes to be in your hands and you to be ready to make them for your family. Hopefully it will help inspire you and show you, give you some ideas. What can I feed my family, right? Because everybody has to eat 3 times a day typically. So anyway, we're going to jump right into it, and I'm going to just show you some of the things that we have enjoyed eating this past week. I hope that it's really inspiring to you, and if you like this video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. We live on a 40-acre homestead in Nebraska, and I'm sharing with you all things real life here, lots of sourdough and gardening, canning, all the preservation stuff, and then of course videos like this on how we use that same food to cook from scratch and save money at the grocery store. So if you like that kind of stuff, if you like homesteading, definitely hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll be seeing you around. Let's hop into the video. The first thing we're going to make is our favorite sourdough pancakes, except that this time I'm going to add some different spices and then some pumpkin puree so that we will have pumpkin sourdough pancakes. These are absolutely delicious, and all of the recipes I'll be sharing with you today are on the blog wagonwheelhomestead.com, so you can go print them off or save them to Pinterest, and then you can have them at your disposal anytime. So just adding all of the ingredients to a bowl and whisking them up. And I'm just going to be making them right away this morning, although you can mix this batter up ahead of time and just let it sit on your counter overnight or in the fridge for several days, and then you'll get all the long fermented benefits from the sourdough. And I don't measure exactly, although if you want to, you can follow the exact recipe on the blog, but I just add a little bit more milk if needed at the end to get the right consistency for these pancakes. And then I always like to cook my pancakes in a cast iron pan. I just love the even heat that cast iron gives me. And so I have this big pan that I've actually gotten from Carolina Cooker, and you can look them up online. Anyway, I really enjoy making pancakes and lots of different things in this pan because I can get it all done fairly quickly, and these pumpkin pancakes are no exception. And I like to serve these up with some homemade butter from our Jersey milk cows, and of course maple syrup. This is one of our favorite breakfasts, especially in the late summer and fall. One of the next things I'm going to show you how to make is my favorite sourdough pumpkin muffins with a cream cheese filling. And so what you need to do before you make the muffins is mix up the cream cheese filling. I'm actually using some homemade yogurt that's been strained so it's really thick as my cream cheese, and then adding in some powdered sugar and then putting it into plastic wrap and shaping it into a log so that we'll be able to cut it into pieces and put those pieces in the middle of our pumpkin muffins. And I'm just going to put this in the freezer for a couple of hours until we're ready to bake. And my little boy is helping me mix up these muffins because they are some of his favorite things to eat.
So it will be a little messier than usual, but that's okay. That's how they learn. It's so important to include them. So we're just going to put all of the spices and all the dry ingredients into a mixing bowl, mix it up, and then add our wet ingredients and continue on with putting the muffins into the muffin pan. I'm just adding in some pumpkin that I had left over from last year. Our pumpkins this year aren't quite ready to harvest yet. And I'm also using some beef tallow for the oil in this recipe. You could also use applesauce if you want to make it oil-free. And then adding in some sourdough starter. Whenever I do a lot of baking, I like to feed my sourdough starter a whole bunch of flour and water in a bowl. And that way I have plenty to use for all of my baking needs. You can use discard in this recipe or active starter. It doesn't really matter. We are going to add some baking powder and baking soda, and that's what's going to make our muffins rise, just like you would typical muffins. And if you wanted to make this batter ahead of time for all of the long fermented health benefits of the sourdough, you could do that as well. But I'm just mixing these up today, and we're going to make them up and really enjoy them. And then I like to use paper muffin cups, and I get these off of Amazon, and I'll be sure to link them in the description box below. They just make a really nice presentation, and they're made with unbleached parchment paper. They save a lot of cleanup in my muffin pan. This is a 24-cup muffin pan, and I really like it because I can easily get all the muffins for my family made at one time, and this recipe does make 24 muffins. So what we're doing is just putting a little bit of batter on the bottom of each muffin cup, and then we're going to add our cream cheese that's in the freezer. And what I do is I just cut the cream cheese log into 24 equal sections. So I just sort of, portion it out accordingly, and then drop each little piece of frozen cream cheese into the center of each muffin. Then we're just going to top off each muffin cup with some more batter, and that way the cream cheese will be like a little surprise in the muffins. These muffins are some that we've been making for many years. I make them every spring during calving season, and I always send them to the barn for the guys to have as snacks while they're calving. And then we always make them in the fall, of course, when the pumpkins are readily available. So these are a tried and true recipe in our family, and we are excited to enjoy them again. Then I'm going to mix up a crumble topping with some spices, sugar, a little bit of flour, and some butter. We're going to sprinkle this on top of the muffins, and it just gives it a nice streusel type topping, which is something you would expect in a pumpkin muffin. Then we're going to bake these at 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes or until they're golden brown, and remove them from the pan. Store them in an airtight container for up to a week, although around here they never last more than a day or two. And these are a perfect late summer or fall treat. Something else we're going to mix up is some sourdough tortillas. This is a new recipe on the blog. I do have a pourable sourdough tortilla recipe I make when I'm in a hurry, but when I want to put something like breakfast burritos, which is what we're going to make today, into the freezer for quick and easy breakfast, I like to make the traditional rollout sourdough tortillas, and I make these using beef tallow as the fat instead of lard. It's just my preference. So I'm just going to mix up a big batch of these in my mixer, and then we will roll them out and make the filling for the breakfast burritos. And for the breakfast burrito filling, I'm just going to add some onions. These are fresh from the garden. Same with the green bell peppers from the garden, to a cast iron skillet. A little bit of beef tallow or butter, either one works just fine. And we're just going to saute those up, and then we're going to start adding in our other ingredients. My favorite way to add eggs to any kind of a skillet where you're going to scramble them is just to keep your heat fairly low and then put your eggs right into the skillet and just scramble after adding, a few eggs. I just use my spatula, scramble them up, and it just saves me the dishes of having another bowl full of eggs. So I'm just adding eggs until I'm happy. I'm trying to make quite a few burritos for the freezer. So I am, adding lots of eggs until I feel like I have enough filling to go into the burritos. The next step is to roll out our sourdough tortillas. So on a well-floured work surface, I am just rolling these and trying to keep them as round as possible, although it's okay to have tortillas that are a little bit rustic. And as far as how much dough you will need for each tortilla, it depends on the size of your finished tortilla that you're going for. So if you want small taco-shaped tortillas, you'll obviously use less dough. But I just pinch off a handful of dough and see what size of a tortilla it makes and then adjust from there. And you will certainly figure out what works best for you. And again, they can be a little bit rustic. It's totally fine. Then just adding these to a cast iron skillet that is heated to medium low. There's sort of a balance between having your skillet too hot so that it scorches your tortillas and too cold so that they don't puff up. And what you want them to do is puff up just a little bit so that they will stay soft. And then to assemble these, what I do is I like to take a sheet of plastic wrap and put my tortilla on that. It just helps everything stay nice and tight in the freezer. And I also browned some of our venison breakfast sausage to go with these. And so I'm just going to put some filling, some of the egg, cheese, pepper, onion filling, and then some of the browned breakfast sausage into these tortillas and adding a little more cheese, and then rolling it all up and sticking them right into the freezer. And these are absolutely delicious. They're really great for when we're busy harvesting in the garden. If someone's hungry, I can just send them to the freezer to get a burrito. And it's just a great way to have breakfast taken care of ahead of time. Another one of our favorite breakfasts, and this is actually for any time of year, is our sourdough cinnamon twist. This is what I make every week for our farmers market all summer long. It's just like cinnamon rolls, except that it's easier to put together and it's really a kind of a pretty presentation. And so I'm going to show you how to make this sourdough cinnamon twist into like a wreath braid. We just call it a twist. You can call it whatever you want. And this is often something that I will give away as gifts during the holidays as well. And so it's just a great way to give some sourdough to your friends and neighbors. Of course, you're going to want to mix up the regular cinnamon roll filling. And this recipe is also on the blog. Again, very similar to my sourdough cinnamon roll recipe. And you saw that I added baking powder and baking soda to the dough because I'm going to be baking this fairly soon. And so that's a quick way to do cinnamon rolls. If you want to leave out the additional leaveners and just let the sourdough raise the cinnamon rolls or the cinnamon twist, you can certainly do that as well. It just takes a few hours for that to rise. Then we're going to take our beautiful sourdough cinnamon roll dough and roll it out into a long rectangle. The longer it is, the more room there will be in the middle of your twist or your wreath, if that makes sense. I think you'll see as we go what I mean. So I try to make it fairly long and, longer than it is wide, if that makes sense. And it's a nice springy dough, so you just have to keep working with it until you get it into the rectangle shape that you're going for. Just like you would for cinnamon rolls, except that the next part is a lot faster, and that's why this is what I do for farmers market. You're going to spread your filling onto the cinnamon rolls, making sure that they are well covered. We want the filling to be all the way through the dough. Then we're just going to roll it up starting on the long side, just like you would for cinnamon rolls. And once you get it all the way rolled across, you're going to pinch the dough together. So we want it to stay together and stay sealed nicely as best we can. And then I like to put it seam side down, so you're going to roll the whole log of dough over and stretch it out almost a little bit more so that it's nice and long and all about the same width. And then I'm just going to put some tallow or butter in a cast iron skillet. You can also bake this on parchment paper. That's usually what I do for farmer's market. Doesn't really matter. And you're going to take a sharp serrated bread knife and very carefully cut through the layers of dough all the way through. And you're going to pinch one end together and just twist it. So this is what makes the twist, and this is why it's so much faster than cutting cinnamon rolls, because you can do a lot of these in a short amount of time if you have all the dough mixed up. So I just twist it around and it makes a really beautiful braid. And I twist it right around and into a wreath or a twist. And for this one, I'm just baking it in my cast iron pan, but you can put 2 of these on parchment paper next to each other on a baking sheet. And so then if you have 3 racks in your oven, you can bake 6 of these at a time, and it really makes it very quick to bake a lot of these cinnamon twists. And I'm just going to mix up the cream cheese frosting. Again, the recipe for this is on the blog. This is our favorite classic cream cheese frosting. And, with powdered sugar and vanilla and all the good things. And then I'm just going to spread this on to the twist. And we then just usually serve these for farmers market in little cake boxes. That's how I take them to market. But again, we enjoy this for breakfast all the time. And so, you can just cut it and eat it, of course, just the way it is. It's very, very good. Basically like cinnamon rolls, just in a different shape. You can decorate these, for Thanksgiving or Christmas and give them as gifts. They are enjoyed by all. And for the sourdough granola, we're just going to combine oats and it's really whatever you want to put in it, right? But I just like to make mine simple. I feel like it's cheaper that way. So I'm using some oats, some coconut, some chocolate chips, and some brown sugar. And I'm just going to mix that all together. And then to some melted butter, I'm adding some sourdough starter. You can use discard or active starter, just whatever you have. And this cuts down on the amount of oil that you have to have on the recipe, and it just makes for a really nice crunchy granola. And of course, it has that fermented element to it, so it's better for your gut health. And then I like to add raisins at the end, but I usually add the raisins after I get done baking it so that they don't dry out. I like to bake the chocolate chips in the granola, but the raisins I like to add at the end. And so you can add craisins, you could add, any kind of dried fruit that you wanted to this, pumpkin seeds. You could even put some pumpkin spice into it and make like a pumpkin granola. That would be really good. We try to keep granola on hand all the time, and then we eat it with yogurt or milk. It's always kind of a go-to last-minute meal that we can pull out of the cupboard and eat anytime. So then I'm just going to bake this at 325 degrees for about an hour. You don't have to stir it. I find if you don't stir it that you have bigger clumps in your granola, and we kind of like it that way. You can also put it on time bake from the night before and then have it freshly baked first thing in the morning. And the last thing I'm going to be mixing up is some cinnamon crunch bagels. So this is very similar to the bagel recipe that's on the blog, except this is the cinnamon crunch version, and you can look that one up on the blog as well. So I'm just using my Bosch mixer, which I use every day, to mix the dough for me. If you want to make a lot of bagels, you can just mix them up by hand and do a few stretch and folds on them, but it takes a few hours to get the gluten to develop that way. But I made a double batch of these in my mixer, and that works out just fine. So I'm just dividing the dough into 16 equal shapes. And then I'm just going to shape the dough into bagels, and we will let this rise for an hour or two. I'm going to go out and get some work done in the garden. Then we're going to come back and boil these, and we'll put our cinnamon crunch topping on them and bake them. And these are absolutely delicious and great to have on hand. You can also slice them and put them in the freezer, and they make a really quick, fast, and easy breakfast as well. And I top these bagels with a very yummy cinnamon crunch combination. They are absolutely delicious. And if you want to freeze them, I suggest that you slice them first and then pop them in the freezer, and then you can have them for really easy breakfasts. I like to serve them with homemade cream cheese or butter, and they are just one of our favorite things. So simple and easy to have around. Well, I hope these recipes have given you some inspiration, and I hope that you enjoy cooking them for your own family. Be sure to get all the recipes off the blog, wagonwheelhomestead.com. You can pin them to your Pinterest or print them off, and I will see you in the next video.